So I'd like to thank everyone for coming. We are going to be recording this and posting it to the YouTube channel. So if you comment, just so you know, the camera may be going on you. So, the camera kind of follows whoever's speaking. So if you do comment, you're going to be on TV. So I just want to give you guys a heads up. As Sue does her presentation, if you'd like to ask questions, please throw them in the chat. I'll try to keep note of them, and then we'll get to them either afterwards, or Sue, if you see them and you want to acknowledge them as you go, that's fine too. It's up to you. I can moderate it after. We'll kind of figure that part out on the fly. So our guest here today is Sue Reynolds. A lot of you guys I know have heard the podcast that we did with her a couple weeks ago, which is one of my favorite ones. We had a really good back and forth and had a really good time. And I tell you what, a lot of people responded to your story, and it was great that you're able to come here and spend some time with us. I know at least 2 people in this chat own your book, if not 3 or more. Maybe people didn't tell me, but you have a great story, and I think a lot of people can relate to it. There you go.
Debbie.
I think a lot of people can relate to it, and we're looking forward to getting the chance to talk to you and hear a little bit more. So she's an author. She's written the book The Athlete Inside. She's been written about in Runner's World, and obviously the esteemed Ordinary Marathoner podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, Sue Reynolds, welcome to our happy hour. Thank you so much for coming.
This is so much fun. I have to tell you, the podcast that we did with the Ordinary Marathoner, that was one of my favorite ones too. It's the only one where I was accused of being a murderer.
Hey, you did that.
But I will never forget laughing at that moment. Oh my gosh, that was hysterical. So, and with Scott involved in your group, I was thinking after the podcast that if there were ever a coach that I think I could work for, that I would feel great taking directions from, that I would really believe cared about me, it would be Scott. You just come across that way, and it was just a pleasure, and I'm so glad that our paths have crossed here too. So yeah, and after listening to all of the chatter and the humor and as we were opening this, I can tell the whole group is like this. So what a fun evening this is going to be. So let me ask you some questions first. I guess, how many of you have listened to the podcast? I want to make sure I'm not like repeating myself too much. How many, if you just raise a hand, how many of you have listened to the podcast? Okay, a few, but not all. Good. So this will be fresh material for some of you. And how many of you have never, I know a lot of you are runners, how many of you have never done a triathlon? Okay, oh, that's good too. Oh, lots of people to convert tonight. Right.
You'd have to teach me to ride a bike first.
Okay. Okay. So, well, good. So I thought as I'm chatting, I'd share some photos with you. So hopefully the technology works and I can share my screen. And let me see if I can do this real quickly. And hang on here. Okay, are you seeing my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, let me, current slide. Okay. Okay, so this is my story in a nutshell. I was morbidly obese at 335 pounds, and in 4 years I lost 200 pounds and went from someone who couldn't even stand and talk at the same time. I was so unfit, to being 6th in the world in triathlon. And it's just, I mean, I still shake my head and wonder and think, how did this happen? Oh my goodness. So it just really I was such on a fast track. And I think there's just so many blessings in my journey, and I just feel really happy to be where I am today. So as Scott mentioned, I was asked by many people to share my story, and writing a book about yourself is kind of weird. I'm thinking, like, who would want to read about me, and what a boring book this is going to be. But it's actually done very well. And I wrote it because there were so many people that inspired me with their stories. And I thought if my story could inspire others, that would be wonderful. So I ended up writing a book, and I do a lot of public speaking now about this crazy journey and about the hope that we can all be the person that we want to be. So basically, just a quick summary of the book. It's just about the journey that I'm about to talk about tonight, going from 335 pounds to worlds. My favorite part of the book is it also is a story about the relationship between my coach and me. My coach is younger than my children, and it was really weird to like take directions from this little whippersnapper of a good person, and just to earn to be able to trust him and to earn his confidence in me. And then he had to work so hard to build my confidence, because the first time I went to Worlds, I was still a beginner. And I felt so in over my head. I was just scared to death. So the book is, we're using all the proceeds from the book. So those of you who bought one, thank you so much. The proceeds from the books that you bought are going to USA Triathlon Foundation. And specifically, they're helping people with disabilities or visual impairments participate in sports in triathlon. So it's a really good cause. So if you buy a book for yourself or for all of your friends for Christmas, the money is going to a good cause. And it is doing really well. We've got a 5-star rating right now on Amazon with over 100 reviews, and I'm just thrilled. And in just a few weeks, I'll be able to send the first check to the foundation, and I'm really excited about that. So, okay, so in a nutshell, here's my story. A lot of times people ask me, why did I want to lose weight? And surprisingly, it wasn't because of my appearance. It was basically because I got really tired with not being able to do the things I wanted to do, like fit into a restroom stall and get the door closed behind me, or sit in a booth, or put on my own shoes. And one day I just got fed up with not being able to do all the things that I wanted to do. And I just said enough and started making different choices. So basically, the nutrition plan that I'm following is nothing special. It's just a whole foods plan. It's just eating healthy. I don't leave out any food groups. I just watch my portion sizes. I eat 5 times a day, and I'm really lucky that I don't mind eating the same thing every day. So I have eaten the same thing every day since 2013. So I know I just makes it easy to know what I'm going to have and not have to worry about it. And then in terms of exercise, man, at 335 pounds, when you're carrying an extra 200 pounds, it is hard to exercise. My first exercise was just a walk to the neighbor's driveway and back. It was about 100 yards, and I was done. That was all I could do. I was exhausted, collapsed on the couch. But I remember thinking too that, oh my gosh, I just exercised. I walked. I remember being covered with sweat and thinking, oh my gosh, this sweat is not because I'm hot, it's because I exercised. And I was just so excited. So one thing led to another. I walked to the next neighbor's driveway, and then the third neighbor's driveway. And eventually I could walk 3 miles. And my son said, let's do a 5K. And I thought 5Ks were just for fit people who ran them. And he said, no, you can go at the end. There will be people pushing strollers and walking their dogs, and you'll be fine. So he signed us up for a 5K. It was called the Krispy Kreme Challenge. And oh my gosh, so now I'm thinking, I'm already worried that everybody's going to be pointing at the obese person and wondering why she was in this event. But now I'm thinking everybody's going to assume that I am there just for the donuts. And it was just horrifying. But it was a wonderful experience. It was a life-changing experience. I remember getting to the halfway point, and there was a water station there, and I didn't know what it was. And I thought, oh, well, that must be for the runners. That must be for the real athletes. And I'm just walking. And I remember thinking I didn't deserve a glass of water because I wasn't doing anything notable. But I walked by the table, And a volunteer came running after me with a glass in her hand. And she said, "This is for you. You need this." And I, at that moment, I felt like I was in the Boston Marathon. I mean, I felt like an athlete. And just that little random act of kindness from that perfect stranger, and that changed my life. It's changed the direction of my life. All of a sudden, I loved endurance sports. So next steps were to just kind of branch out in my exercise, did a water aerobics class, kind of tried to swim a couple laps after class. I did a spin class, started doing run to 5K. I don't know why my slides keep advancing. That's weird. I started doing run 5K, and that was bizarre. I mean, I'm still obese, and I didn't even know if I could run. My first run was literally for 10 feet, and I didn't actually, probably wasn't running, but my elbows were bent and my hands were moving fast, so I called it running, but I'm sure it really wasn't true running. But those were the next steps. And then I started thinking swim, spin class, run, maybe I should do a triathlon someday. And I never thought I would really do one, but I have found that if there's some big, big thing that I'm thinking about, it makes all the little steps easier. So that little daydream gave direction to my exercise. To be honest, I don't like to exercise, but if I know I'm exercising for a purpose, then exercising I do like. So started wondering if I could do a triathlon, decided finally I could, so I signed up for one before I could chicken out. And I got to my first sprint triathlon. Had not a clue what I was doing. I had never been to a triathlon. I'd never seen a triathlon. I mean, I'm 60 years old at that point. My friends are crocheting. I mean, they're not doing sports. So I go to this triathlon, and one of the things I've learned through my years, this is my older person wisdom, is that anytime I'm feeling confused or lost, I just try to find the smartest person in the room, and I just tell them, "I'm lost, can you help me?" So I found a young man who had disc wheels, and I thought he must know what he's doing because he has a fancy bike. And I just went up and said, "Help, I'm lost." So he took me over to my rack and showed me how to rack my bike. And I laugh now at all the stuff I brought. This duffel bag, I think, has 4 or 5 exchanges of clothing in it. I brought a cooler with lots of food in case I got hungry. I went off to the swim, and here's my swim cap still in transition. It didn't occur to me I would need my swim cap in the swim. So I was just totally lost. But one of the things that I discovered at this point, and I write about this throughout the book because it's really made an impact on me, was just the saying, "Go away, fear." And I've learned now to recognize fear and to just talk to it, to just say, "Go away, fear." And I put it on, it makes it like go on the other side of a wall. And I know it's there, but I'm telling that fear, "You are not going to control me. You are not going to keep me from doing what I want to do." And it's just, "Go away, fear." So it was go away, fear. I go to the swim start, and you can see I'm like still obese. And I was so hesitant about being in public in my bathing suit. I hadn't worn a bathing suit in public in decades. And now here I am at an event where there's a lot of people going to be looking at me. And that was another lesson that I learned, that in order to move forward, I also had to be able to say at times, "Go away, pride." And for me, pride more than fear gets in my way. I didn't swim. I love to swim. I didn't swim for decades because I was embarrassed of how I looked in a bathing suit. So I've just learned to say, "Go away, fear, go away, pride." Anytime those things get in the way, because if I let them stop me, I won't move forward in whatever journey I want to be on, at work or with my family or in triathlon. I have to be able to say, "Go away, fear, go away, pride." So the swim ended up being a lot of fun. If you've never done a triathlon, a lot of people are afraid of the swim. But what I want you to see there, see all those green bathing caps that are above the water? All of those people are either treading water or swimming breaststroke or dog paddle. They're not swimming freestyle. They're not good swimmers. You don't have to be a great swimmer to do triathlon. The other thing I want to point out is, see all these kayaks, 1, 2, 3, you are allowed, here's a fourth one. So in this frame, there's 4 different boats. You're allowed to hang onto the boat to rest. So if you want to rest, you just wave your hand, a kayak will come up to you, you grab the kayak, you rest. And as long as you don't make forward motion, that's okay. And then you can dog paddle to the next kayak. I did dog paddle in my first triathlon. When I wanted to look around, I just dog paddled and put my head up, looked around, then put my head back down and swam some more. So you don't have to be a good swimmer. You don't have to be fast. My first transition, I had no idea what I was doing. So you can see I put clothes on over my bathing suit. I sat down, I got my cooler out, I ate a sandwich, I even brushed my hair because I wanted to look pretty on the bike. I think I spent over 10 minutes in transition, again, because I wasn't trying to go fast. I was just trying to finish. I ended up loving the bike, and the bike now is my favorite event. I can remember going down a hill where there was a police officer at the bottom of the hill directing traffic. And I rode through the intersection on my bike and I looked at him and I said, wee, because in my mind, I was 10 years old and I was just riding down the hill on my bike and I was just having so much fun. So bike went well, got off my bike, and now I'm thinking, okay, all I have to do is now the run. I'm 2/3 the way through. I'm probably going to hopefully make it. And I'm noticing that there's all these people at the finish line. They're all cheering for their friends and their relatives. And I'm thinking, this is going to be so cool. I'm going to come in and everybody's going to be cheering for me. I get to the halfway point. I turn around, I come back, and about a mile from the finish, I am dying. And luckily, there were people who had already finished who were going home and they were cheering for me. And I'm visualizing the finish line with all these people, and they're all going to be so happy and cheering. But when you're dead last and you come in like 20 minutes behind the second to last person, this is what the finish line looks like. There is nobody there. Everybody has gone home. There was the timer and me and the finish arch. That was about it. But see this gentleman in the foreground? He clapped for me the entire way in. I felt like I had just won the Olympics. It was the first time that anybody had clapped for me doing anything physical. I just couldn't believe it that people were clapping for me. When I went across the finish line on the other side of that, all of our photos show me with one finger in the air. I was dead last, but in my mind, I was number one. I had finished a triathlon. I was a triathlete. When we get to the discussion, I hope that some of you will share how you felt when you finished your first marathon or your first triathlon or your first 5K. I mean, it's just such a fantastic feeling to get across that finish line. You can see it took me 2 hours and 20 minutes to finish. Today, it takes me about 1 hour and 20 minutes to finish, so I'm a little bit faster today. But 2 hours and 20 minutes, who cared? I got across the finish line. That was the goal. So I started wondering, I fell in love with endurance sports at that point. I started wondering how I compared to others my age. I had been coming in first at a lot of triathlons, but it was because I was the only one in my age group. So I just was curious, how do I compare to other 60-year-olds? Am I fast? Am I slow? So because I was first in a triathlon where I was the only one in my age group, I qualified for the national championship. So I went and I figured, to go to a national championship, I thought this will be a story I can tell my grandchildren. I looked up everybody's times from the previous year and I figured I would come in second to last. But I didn't care. So I went, and by this time I had a coach. So this is the start. It was my first mass start. It was in Lake Michigan, first big body of water to swim in. First time in a wetsuit. I was just scared to death. I had a coach at that point, and he told me to line up front and center. And by that point, I had learned to, and I don't know if you guys are like this, if Scott's coaching you, but I learned at this time to be coachable and to do whatever my coach told me to do without questioning him. So some of you are laughing. Do they not do that, Scott? I don't know. So at any rate, so I line up front and center. The gun goes off, and we're all swimming for this little point that's about 200 meters out, and we're all converging on each other as we swim to this common place. And about halfway there, we're like sardines. This women's ribs are rubbing against my ribs, and I'm touching people's feet. People are touching my feet, and I'm swimming along, and my hand comes down smack dab in the middle of another woman's back. And I'm thinking, now what do I do? I mean, if I bumped into somebody on the street, I would pull back and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Excuse me. You go right ahead." And I thought about maybe I should just, pull back and let her go. But then I'm thinking, this is a race and I want to beat her to that point. So I just kept my hand going. And in the process, I pushed her underwater and I swam over the top of her. And I loved that feeling. I discovered there was a competitive beast inside of me. I had no idea that person was there. Totally freaked me out. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, Sue, you just swam over someone and you liked it. What is wrong with you? But I got home and I talked to my coach and I said, I think we have a problem. I shoved a woman underwater and I liked it. And he just laughed. He said, Sue, that's a good thing. That's that competitiveness that we want you to have. That's excellent. He said, on the street, you're not going to push anybody down, but in triathlon, when you're going for it, that happens sometimes. And he said, you don't feel bad about that. That's that competitive drive that we want you to have. So I discovered at this race that there was this competitor inside of me and that I love competing, and which made training all the more fun because then I could look forward to racing and competing. So that was a life changer for sure. The other thing that happened is I finally got to compare myself to women my age, and I came in middle of the pack, just under the middle of the pack. And I wasn't serious about my training at that point. I would skip workouts if life got in the way. And I started wondering, well, what would happen if I trained like an elite? How far can I go? If I could get middle of the pack without really being serious about it, what if I got really serious? And I knew I would never be Gwen Jorgensen, the Olympic champion, but I kept thinking, there's no reason why I can't train like Gwen. There's no reason why I can't have Gwen's work ethic and Gwen's drive. And so I started really thinking about committing and training like I was an elite, even though I had a season and a half behind me. I mean, I was a beginner and still obese. So then I started wondering, I wonder if I could qualify for Team USA someday. And I thought if I worked really, really, really hard, I maybe could, maybe in 3 years. But that was such a pie in the sky, just out there dream that I didn't want to tell anybody about it. I mean, I'm still obese. I only have one triathlon season behind me, and I'm thinking about going to Worlds, haha, yeah, right, Sue. I finally told my coach, and my coach's response was, Sue, forget 3 years. Let's make the team this year. And I'm like thinking, are you crazy? But by this time I trusted my coach, and I knew if my coach thought I could, there was a chance that I could. And he wanted to commit, and so I committed too. And the two of us we both just worked our tails off. So I had 2 goals that year. This is my second year of triathlon, going into my 3rd year. One goal was no missed workouts. I didn't miss one workout the entire year. I haven't missed a workout since then for past 5-6 years. And then my second goal was to do exactly what my coach told me to do with integrity, to do every workout exactly like he wrote it, and to just trust that he would write the perfect plan, and that if I executed his plan perfectly, I would go as far as I could go that year. So I developed a new mantra, which is still my favorite mantra today: no excuses, whatever it takes, find a way. That, I wasn't going to whine about things. I wasn't going to, make excuses for why I couldn't get to a practice or why I couldn't, do a lactate threshold workout that day or whatever. No excuses, whatever it takes, find a way. So we committed, and we trained for a year. We trained like an elite. So it was the swim, bike, run that I'd always done, but we added strength training. We really focused on fine tuning my nutrition to support my workouts. My coach really harped on recovery so that I came to my workouts ready to work out. And then there was the mental part, which was a huge challenge because I'm still a beginner. I mean, I don't really believe that I belong at the national championship. I don't believe I belong at a world championship. I was having meltdowns before every race. I was just terrified and I kept feeling like I was an imposter. And my coach really had to work with me to help me think about myself. Even as an athlete, I couldn't call myself an athlete. That sounded preposterous. I would call myself an athlete wannabe or a pseudo athlete, but it just seemed ridiculous to think of myself as an athlete. So, but we worked and worked and worked. We went to the world's qualifier a year later after all that work, and we qualified. So it was just, that was such a sweet moment. You know, my coach went to that race with me. It was in Florida, and I will never forget looking at the results list and seeing that I was second and knowing that I had qualified for the US team and would be going to Worlds representing the United States. And to think that the whole thing happened in 3 years. I mean, it was just, oh my gosh, it was just crazy. So just real quickly, Worlds, if you ever get a chance to be part of Team USA, I would grab it. I would sell everything you own if you have to get there. But, you know, just being able to wear the same uniform that our country's Olympians wear, to get to race on behalf of your country's flag, but also to meet people from all over the world who have the same love that you have. I had never done a lot of international travel, and I was just amazed that people from all over the world, their countries may have different religions or different politics, but when it came to triathlon, we were all the same. I mean, we were all talking about how hilly the course was, and you know what was the water temperature, and it was just, you know, it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. So swim was fun, swam in the ocean, got stung by jellyfish in the middle of it. But I had done my homework and I knew that there were no jellyfish in Cozumel, Mexico that would kill you. So I just kept swimming and didn't worry about it. The bike was a draft legal bike. So in the United States, all of our triathlons, except for maybe 2, are not draft legal. You can't get close to another bike unless you're passing them. But international triathlons are draft legal. So you ride in a pack like they, you know, like they do at those in the big, like in Tour de France. So I had to learn how to ride in a pack, which meant my coach, bless his heart, in practices and training, he would ride next to me. He would shove my shoulder. He'd knock my handlebar. He'd try to tip me over. And I learned that I could, you know, stay upright. If it was very hard. It's hard to fall over on a bike unless you know, the bike wants to move forward. So I had a lot of confidence, got into a pack at Worlds, and I took leadership for the pack, which was really fun. So I yelled to all the women, you know, everybody's doing 30-second pulls. And as each woman would come back from being the lead bike in our pack, I'd say, good job, Canada, and, you know, nice pull, New Mexico or Mexico. And it was just, we just worked as a group. And even though we were competing with each other and we were from different countries, we all knew that in this segment, if we worked together, we could be ahead of everybody else that wasn't in our pack. I ended up having the fastest bike split in the world, which, you know, to think that 4 years before that, I couldn't even tie my shoes, which is like, I was like dumbfounded. So the run, you guys will appreciate the run. It was hot, hot, hot. It was 84 degrees, which isn't too bad, but it was 87% humidity. And I mean, people were dropping on the run course. It was awful. But again, my coach, 3 weeks before the race, he started making me do my runs in the hot southern Indiana weather in my winter coat, my winter hat, and my winter gloves to get prepped for the hot weather. So I can't say it was easy, but at least I didn't fall down. So it was good. I finished 11th, coming across the finish line in the left photo. I thought I was ready to die. I mean, I left all the gas fumes were out of the tank even. There was just nothing left. But after I had a time to kind of collect myself, the picture on the right is when I walked up to my husband and my coach after the race. And I don't think I've ever been happier. It was just an amazing feeling to finish a world championship race. So just since then have competed and I've qualified for worlds every year. The best I've done is 6th in the world and first American in 2017. One of the things I learned at that race is that to do well at a really highly competitive event, you have to have your very best race. But the other thing is that all the things that you can't control have to go your way when you're really competing at a top level. So this race was just everything that could have gone wrong went my way. Plus I had a good race. And so, it really went well for me. And then last year I started getting curious. I'm not an Ironman distance or a half Ironman distance competitor. I don't want to be. I just love sprinting. But out of curiosity, I entered a half Ironman and I ended up qualifying for worlds in that distance too. So that was kind of a shock. I didn't expect that, but decided not to go because I really wanted to focus on sprint triathlon, and the training is quite different for the two. Yeah, and then this year, as all of you, the year of COVID, I decided early in June, I guessed that all the races would be canceled. So decided to not race in 2020. And instead, we started on a really comprehensive strength building program. But I still train, and I'm training at full fitness, which is interesting to work on technique and full fitness. Usually we're working on technique during the off season, and so I'm not as fit. But I don't know if you guys are like this, but all the tracks here are closed. We used to train on the high school tracks, and they're all closed. They won't let the public in anymore. So we took duct tape and made a 400-meter track in a parking lot, which is what the picture on the right is. That's the parking lot where I swim. And so we just made our own track, and that's where I do my track training. And then all of my swim training has been outside. Matter of fact, earlier today in 55-degree weather, I went out and did an open water swim. It was quite cold. So, and then 2021, hopefully we'll be past this COVID stuff, and I qualified for Worlds in Bermuda, and I'll be competing there in the sprint. And then there's a new event that I think I have qualified for, but it hasn't been announced yet. There's a new event called Mixed Relay. It's a relay team, 2 men, 2 women, and everybody does their own little mini triathlon. So it's a 400-meter swim, a 3-mile bike, and a 1-mile run. And then you pass, the baton to the next person. So I hope I get a place on that team. And it looks like I'm going to, but it hasn't been announced yet. So that would be cool. So yeah, so that's my story. And let me stop sharing screen and then we can chat. Oh, one thing I forgot. Oops, there we go. Stop.
Okay, go back to that one.
That's okay. We can talk about that later. But don't let me forget, because otherwise I won't be able to connect, and I love connecting.
Well, we did get a number. First of all, thank you so much again for sharing too. I heard your story before you came on the podcast. I listened to another podcast you had done, and I listened to your story, and then you retold it on the podcast. And I feel like I can't get enough of it. I could listen to it 100 times and I wouldn't get bored. I think it's just, and especially, with a lot of the crowd that, from our page, a lot of people overcoming the same things that you overcame. And it's just, I think a lot of people are able to relate. I know one of the comments in the section Angela wrote when you crossed the finish line and there was no one there, that it reminded her of her first full marathon, crossing the finish line the same way. And I think that, for a lot of us, we can relate to a lot of the different parts of your story, which I think is great. I got some text messages from some of the people here while you were talking, saying how great this was. So,
fun.
Yeah. So the one question that someone posted was from Emma, and kind of just asking if you've ever had to deal with injuries during or any kind of nagging injuries or anything like that in your training. I mean, you've been at it really, such a short time, but have you ever had to deal with that?
Not really. I think because I started this so late in life, so I started at 60, and I've only now been running now for 6 years. I'm 66 now. So I still have all my cartilage. That was the one thing, the first time I had an x-ray, my sports doctor said, oh, you have a lot of cartilage. And so I think that's a really good thing. So I did have, well, and then the other thing is that I think working with a coach was really smart, because my coach was really good at knowing how hard to push me, but not pushing me too much. And one of the first things that I did with my coach was we trained for a half marathon. I thought if I could do a half marathon, the 5K and the sprint triathlon would seem easy. That didn't help, but I thought it would. But with my coach, it was really weird, because I had read that when you're training for a half marathon, you should increase your long days by 10% every week. And we weren't doing that. And I thought my coach, I had just met him, and I thought he didn't know what he was doing, and I didn't think I'd be ready, because we weren't increasing my volume the way I thought we should. And I kept adding more miles beyond what he told me to do. That was when he taught me to be coachable. I actually got scolded several times because I ran more than what he said. But
we
what
have
he finally,
someone here like that, right?
say again, Scott.
Oh, we have someone like that too here, right, Denise?
Where's
Denise
Denise?
doesn't listen very well sometimes.
Well, it's so counterintuitive, because, all my life, and probably Denise's life too, the way you excelled at school was to do more than what the teachers asked. The way you excel at work is to do more than what your boss tells you to do. I just thought I was doing something good. But my coach learned that if he scolded me harshly, I would collapse. So he just started writing. If I saw my name, Sue, with 4 exclamation points after it, I knew I was in trouble. That was his scolding. But anyway, what he finally explained to me was that he was increasing my volume, but not all on my long day. He was breaking my volume up into between all 3 of my running days. And then we also put a little run after the bike. So all together, my volume was coming up, but he just did it in a very safe way. So I think because I worked with a coach who knew what he was doing, he knew how much to push me, but also how to hold me back so that I didn't get injured. However, I did end up with, and this is not an injury, it's just a dysfunction. I have a SI joint that is in my, the back of your hip, that gets kind of out of place, and it's very painful, and it shoots pain like everywhere in my leg. And I actually went to the 2017 Worlds, where I was first American with that pain. And so, I had to learn how to say, that was another saying, go away pain. I would tell myself, it's just pain. It doesn't matter. Just keep going. So, but other than that, no, I've been pretty, lucky, but I don't think lucky's the word though. I think I just have a really smart coach.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's good. That's a combination of both, I'm sure. Debbie, I'm going to unmute you real quick, because your questions scroll up to the top. Let me see if that worked. Come on. But I know you read, it's not, there you go. Yeah. Oh, you're there. Yeah. So Debbie read your book, and why don't you, I'll just let you take over. You can ask the question.
I think I read in the book where you were only eating 1,000 calories a day, and your nutritionist wanted you to increase to 1,500 calories. And when I read the 1,000, now I assumed at some point you worked on the nutrition to help lose all the weight, but 1,000 calories doesn't sound like a whole lot when you're training what you're doing.
Yeah.
How long were you at that 1,000 calorie level, and were you able to, I'm trying to understand how you're able to maintain those workouts on such a low calorie deficit there.
Yeah, I have wondered about that too. The 1,000 calories, I basically did that from the beginning all the way down until I hit about 150, so about 15 pounds above where I stopped. I wouldn't recommend that. Everything I've read says 1,200 minimum. When I finally talked to my sports doctor about nutrition, he was not happy that I had been eating 1,000 calories. And he also was very adamant about me not weighing less than 135. He said that you just need that many calories to get in the nutrients that you need. And that if I wasn't eating the calories to maintain 135 body weight at my height, I'm 5'7.5", then I couldn't get the nutrients that I needed. So, but what I think happened, I've wondered that too, like how did I, how did I train with eating so little? I don't know, and I'm not a doctor and I'm not an expert in this, so this is just kind of what I've read and what I'm guessing. I think what happened is, I don't know, maybe you've read about how athletes, and especially endurance athletes, will work to become, what do they call it, Scott? When you're that you burn fat, that
Keto.
yeah, but it's just, you can train your body so that instead of burning glycogen and sugars, it burns fat for fuel. And I think
it's ketosis, but you know who's here? We actually have a dietitian here.
Oh, cool. Let's find out.
I think you're talking fat adapted.
Fat adapted. Yeah.
Okay. But we do have a dietitian here. If we need to bring Allison in, we can do that.
Well, Allison, please jump in. But so what I'm thinking, Allison, happened was that I was doing most of my training when running at that time in zone 2. So it was just easy running, easy bikes. And I think my body just became fat. What's that called, Jen? Fat
adapted.
Fat adapted. Yeah. So I was just burning fat. Instead my body wasn't depending on what I was eating. It was just burning the fat. So does Allison want to jump in?
I don't know. Maybe we can't get her. Maybe she's away. Oh, there she is.
I'm here. I've just been cooking dinner. Your story is amazing, Sue. This is like so incredible. It's impressive. And this is actually my first time hearing this. So like, I'm very impressed, but
does that make sense though, that why I could train on 1,000 calories? Do you think I just became fat adapted?
I think that it's possible, but I think it's amazing to me. I'm surprised that it was that long of a time frame that you were able to maintain that without having any negative consequences from that.
Yeah.
And did you notice when you started to eat more that you were able to go faster or do longer training sessions? Did you have any positive impact when you adjusted your diet with?
No, it was pretty much the same. And what you might appreciate this, when I got down close to like where I knew I was going to have to stop losing weight, I was terrified to stop losing weight, because every time I had stopped a diet, I had gained it all back. And I just thought for sure I would just gain 200 pounds back. So I was afraid to stop dieting, and everybody around me was terrified that I would just get unhealthy skinny. I remember my coach, my coach wanted me to stop at 150. Went to my doctor, he said 135. And I finally wrote to Matt Fitzgerald. I don't know if any of you know him. He writes a lot on nutrition for endurance athletes. And I wrote and asked him for his advice. The other thing I didn't know, Allison, is I have some extra body skin now, and that was part of my body weight. So I didn't know like how that would enter into my BMI and just exactly what my healthy weight would be, where I should stop. But Matt wrote back, and his advice was to go down to 150. And then he said, add calories in very slowly. And no, let me back up. He said, go down to 150 and then add calories in so that you start losing weight more slowly. And he said, if you start to feel bad, or if you start to, be slower, or you can't do your workouts, then that's a sign that you weigh too little, and then start eating some more. So I went down to 135 and nothing changed. I felt great. My workouts were fine. So, but I had promised my doctor that I would stop there. So I stopped. And then I started working with a sports dietitian who actually works at Indiana University with our teams. Yeah. And I've learned so much. There's a difference between dietitian and a nutritionist. And
Yes.
yes, yes.
I promise I didn't pay her to say this.
She was wonderful. I tell you what, she was perfect for me. She was so sensitive to the fact that I was afraid to stop losing weight. And I went in and said, you know, I've been eating 1,000 calories. And she was like horrified. And she said, no, you need to go up to 2,000. And I said, 2,000? No way. So we started negotiating. And she said, well, would you do 1,400? And I said, oh my gosh, no. So I said, okay, I'll do 1,400. But if I gain 1 pound, the deal's off. And so I went to 1,400 and kept losing weight at 1,400. And then we went to 1,600 and I kept losing weight. And I found now that 2,000 is about right for me, that I don't lose weight there. So I could maintain it that weight. But, you know, had she pushed me to, you know, oh, you must eat 2,000, I would have just probably never gone back, you know. So she was really good at working with me, just the mental side of it all. So I don't know, I forget who asked that question. Did we answer it?
No, that was good. Thank you.
Yeah, we actually have a lot of questions, I think, rolling off of that too. So I'm going to kind of ask them out of order. But Emma's question was, did you jump, like, what made you jump down to 1,000 calories? Did you just do it like all of a sudden, or did you like gradually kind of change your diet until you got down to 1,000?
Yeah, I did it all of a sudden. I didn't know what I was doing. Had no clue how to lose weight. I had failed at losing weight for decades. I started Weight Watchers and I lost 66 pounds on Weight Watchers. But the way I did it, I was just eating points, and I would eat all my points for breakfast. I'd still eat waffles and maple syrup for breakfast. Then I just wouldn't eat the rest of the day. So I lost weight, but it wasn't sustainable and I gained it all back. And then I just went to a Whole Foods program. I got involved with a gym here in my town, just a local program. And it was part of their program. So just Whole Foods is what they promoted. So yeah, so I went to 1,000 and it worked. And I was getting results and I felt okay. So the first 3 weeks were hard, but after that became just routine. Became a habit.
So then related to that, I think Denise's question from earlier was, and since you eat the same thing every day, what is it that you eat? We saw your fridge. Is that what you eat?
Yeah. So it was pretty simple. Breakfast is oatmeal and yogurt. Lunch is yogurt, the biggest apple I can find. That apples are now like chocolate bars for me. I love apples. So yogurt, apple, and 15 almonds. But I've learned all these tricks. Part of what I like about eating is I like the process of eating. I just like putting food in my mouth and I like nibbling. So what I do with my apple is I cut it in very like paper thin slices, so that it eats like potato chips. And so to me, they're potato chips. I'm just putting apple chips in my mouth. And then dinner is 10 ounces of egg whites, which is like 13 egg whites, 2 cups of spinach, 2 tablespoons of Parmesan cheese, and half a slice of bread. So whole wheat bread. So that's dinner. And again, when you put the spinach in that many egg whites, I mean, I have a plate that is like has a mountain of food on it. It takes me forever to eat dinner. It just makes a lot. And then pre-workout is 100 calories of some kind of carb. Post-workout is protein shake and another 60 or 70 calories of carbs. And then before I go to bed, I'll have cottage cheese, because I know, gross. Cottage cheese has casein protein in it, which is a slow metabolizing protein. So it's metabolizing all night long when my body is building muscles. So it's all about feeding my body and fueling my workouts. But then it's also, I eat on days when I have really hard workouts, I add in more carbs. So I'll eat more calories on days that I have really hard or really long workouts. So yeah, so it can range from 1,700 to 2,200 calories.
Well, it seems like you're really on top of that. You mentioned about the loose skin that you had and how it was affecting you. And you were, I guess, curious about how it affected your weight. Was that ever something that you contemplated doing something about surgically?
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because I think my whole perception about my extra skin, and I lost the weight slowly and I exercised, so I don't have as much loose skin as like the people that you see on The Biggest Loser have. They lost that weight so quickly, and it's just, mine is totally different. But my one of my granddaughters one day, I was sitting next to her on the couch and she was rubbing my arm and she said, "Grandma, I love your flappy arms." So my whole perception of loose skin changed. I thought, who said that loose skin is bad? My granddaughter loves it. So yeah, so that was fine. But it did make a difference. It does make a difference in my competing. When I was losing weight, I was getting faster and faster on the bike and in the run, and my swim was getting slower. And finally we realized that my extra skin was a drag suit. So I always now in the pool, every workout I do, I wear a triathlon kit because I need to hold that skin in so it doesn't become a drag suit. So, and really in doing that, I took 10 seconds off 100 meters time just by changing the bathing suit I was wearing. This is amazing.
Well, yeah, I'm not surprised. It's a lot of, as a coach, you learn a lot of everything. Bike, swim is a lot about drag.
Yeah.
So anytime you can kind of mitigate that, it seems really like a good, a good thing to do. And you can do that in the swim with your, with the suit that you wear. I'm going to bring Matt in.
So much of appearance is mindset. I mean, I can get upset about the flap that's down here, but I'd rather focus on the muscle that's up here.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's all about getting to the finish line a little bit faster too. So if you can do that without having to worry about it, I think that's great. I'm going to bring in Matt here, who his name under his head is Fat Guy to Try Guy, which I think he was 350 pounds. He commented on it before, but I'll bring him in and say, because I think his story relates a lot to you or to yours. And is there anything? How does listening to Sue's story kind of get, you said something about changing your plans. How does that change your plans? Or how do you basically look at, when you hear her story, how does that affect your outlook?
Hi, Sue.
Hi.
We're actually friends on Facebook.
Yeah.
But,
I was thinking, yes, hi.
So yeah, you follow, I don't know if you follow me on the Follow the Fat Guy to Kona page, but
yeah.
So anyways.
But wait, that's you? You're famous.
No, you're famous.
Oh my gosh, I've been following you for years. Oh, yay.
So your story is identical to my story, right up to the point where you get fast. I'm not to that point yet, but it's like identical, and I was 350. So I started doing the same thing, the running. I couldn't run. I couldn't do anything. I still don't like not wearing shirts and swimsuits. And
yeah.
But now, you did the ITU Worlds. I mean, I guess I could do that too, So maybe maybe I should do something else.
I got fast, but I went fast. You went long. I mean, what you've done is amazing. And I can remember watching your first, I forget where you did your first one.
Casanova, the sprint try. But I did Lake Placid last year.
Yeah, that's the one.
So I met Matt, actually.
Yeah. I and millions of other people followed you, and you just, I learned so much from you too. But I want to make sure I have this right. Didn't you write about how on the bike because you were pacing yourself, but you would like rest on the downhills, and then you would, that was part of your bike strategy? Is that right? Yeah. I thought that was so clever.
It's free speed.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you're 200, I was 286 pounds when I weighed in. So when you're rolling downhill, I roll down a lot faster than everybody else.
I remember that. But absolutely. And yeah, I mean, I just chose one. There was a USAT, USA Triathlon board member who said to me, don't let anybody ever tell you that you have to go longer than sprint. He said, if you enjoy sprint, just do sprints. And, you know, I've had a lot of pressure. A lot of people will say to me, you know, why don't you do an Ironman someday, you know? But I just like sprinting, and I like going fast. I like the challenge of going fast. And so I just decided not to take that pressure to go longer. But for people that do, oh my gosh. And when I did the half Ironman last year just as an experiment, I mean, sprint triathlon is painful. You're racing at threshold the whole way, but those longer distances are painful too. Oh my gosh. I mean, just the wear and tear on your body after, you know, X number of hours is crazy.
We just have different ideas of what our hurt lockers are.
Yeah.
Yours is short, mine's long.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, so cool that you're here, and it's such an honor to meet you.
Well, it's an honor to meet you.
Absolutely. I'm gonna, as soon as we hang up on this call, I'm gonna go look you up on Facebook again.
I think that's great.
Cool.
Matt, you know, Matt is like, I could see him being like, you know, almost like a third, like maybe a quarter of the way into like your journey. Matt pushes out like over 300 watts on the bike. He's like no joke. He's, you know, and to watch him kind of lose the weight and then continue to go on from there, it's like we're all rooting for him. And it's one of those things where, you know, it's just a matter of time, I think, for him to really get competitive. And I think your story, I think it's kind of interesting to see when you have someone that, you know, that's done it and you know, you're doing it still and people kind of on their way up to doing it and using it's almost you sort of as inspiration, I think.
It's almost like when you don't think it's possible and then you see your story, it makes it so it is possible.
Yeah. That's what I was just going to say that too. I think it's so nice that you're sharing your story like you are, because and that's why I decided to share my story too. I hope that, you know, we both give people hope that they can go on this journey and become fit. That's amazing. Yeah. And it's, you know, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of so excited to meet him. I mean, I really have. I could tell you what Matt's garage looks like. I know from social media. I mean, oh, that's hysterical.
Why don't you tell us about that bike in the background? What is that?
That is my pride and joy. It's a Cervelo P3. I bought it when I was still a beginner and put platform pedals on it. So, and I promised my bike that if it would stick with me, I would grow into it. And I think I have. I love it.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that we could kind of set you guys up together.
Yeah, thank you. What a treat.
Before we go though, I do want to address Jen's question. What do you put in your cottage cheese? Or you just have it plain?
I just have it plain. Yes. So I don't mind cottage cheese.
Sorry, it wasn't exciting. I thought it was going to be exciting.
I can tell you though that casein protein shakes are much better than cottage cheese.
That's nice. So we were gonna give away a signed copy of Sue's book. Yes. I know a number of you guys have it already, and if you do, all I'd ask you is, if you win the signed copy, is to take the copy that you have and pass it forward to someone else who could use it. I'm going to skip over me. It looks like we have, what do we have? 3 times 4, 12. Well, you got to skip over Sue too. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have 11 people. So I'm just going to kind of go through my screen. Angela, you're 1. Emma, you're 2. Debbie, 3. Denise, 4. Jen, 5. Jen Voss, 5. Jen Bergstrom, 6. Matt, you're 7. Mike Roman's 8, Katie 9, Allison 10, and Cheryl, you're 11. So I'm just going to do a random number up here, 1 to 11. And just a random number generator that I have. And it wound up being 11. Can you see it? So Cheryl, congratulations.
Hey.
Cheryl, I'll get your information after, or if you can just shoot it to me in the chat. If you can just shoot me a direct chat, I'll I'll definitely shoot this. Yay.
Do you want her to get it just straight to me? Uh-oh, I froze. Scott froze. Okay, let's do this. So
Yeah.
if you,
Wait a minute.
there we go.
There you go.
Yeah, we dropped. Okay.
Do you want her to just give her information straight to me?
Yeah,
Then-
we can
yeah,
do that.
So for all of you, my website is SueReynolds.net, and all of my social media is listed there, and then there's links to the book. The book is on sale right now. I haven't yet to figure out why or when Amazon puts things on sales. I think it's when the book has had a surge and it starts to come down, and like after the Runner's World article, it went crazy on sale, and now it's on sale again. So it's like less than $10 or $10 on sale right now on Amazon. But who was it that won? Was it
Cheryl.
Cheryl. Cheryl, if you'll do this, go to my website. There's a contact page on there. In the contact, just write to me how you want me to inscribe the book. If you want me to say to Cheryl or to your favorite uncle or whoever you want the inscription to go to. And then if there's anything specific you want me to say, like to Uncle John, happy birthday or whatever, tell me that. And then your mailing address, and then I'll sign the book and get it off to you. So SueReynolds.net, and then just hit the contact. Or if anybody else has any questions later too, you can just contact me that way too. So, and as you can see, I love to follow people on social media. So follow me, and I'll follow you back, and that'll be fun.
Yeah, and we'll be sure to follow you too as you progress through the next year, and hopefully, and good luck. Obviously, good luck in your training. And all that good stuff. What was I going to say? I had one more thing to say. Oh, I will, by the way, I will post, I'll take the video, and it takes me a couple days to process, and then I'm going to post it on our YouTube channel. And I'll also include a link to the book on Amazon if anyone's interested, to make sure that that if anyone wants to buy the book and you can't find it or whatever, that you guys can get it through that link as well.
Hey, Sue.
Yeah.
Is it on Audible?
Not yet. It will be. Our publisher has 1 year to put it on an Audible, and if they don't, then those rights come back to me, and then I'll do it. So one way or another, it will be eventually, but not now. It's on Kindle and hardcover.
Because I listen to stuff while I run, and
me too.
So it's just easier for me to read that way. I read paper books, but yeah.
It's a little more expensive up here in Canada.
It is.
My God.
It's on Amazon right now for $25.74.
Oh my gosh.
And that's the sale price.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. You should get somebody. Who said that?
Angela.
I did, Angela.
Angela, send me a message. I'll just send you a book. That's ridiculous. Because I can
live in Canada too.
I can send it to Canada for same postage as sending to the United States, right?
It's a little bit more. We do a race and we send medals and stuff up to Canada, and typically it's a little bit more to ship to Canada.
But it's not like
at least if it's not in the middle of the height of the pandemic, it takes long. Shouldn't take us long.
Send me.
I'm close to Canada.
Well, you can send it to who just said that? Was that you, Matt? You can send it to Matt.
Oh, bye. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Emma.
Hi. Thank you, Sue. Your story is so inspirational. Thank you.
Thank you. See ya, Emma.
All right.
Over, and now I'm just coming in on the video and everything. So I was there, and then I'm gone. And I could see you, but I couldn't. I don't know. I couldn't get involved in the thing.
I don't think she's talking to us.
I am. I was. Like it's over, and now I figured out how to unmute myself and all that. So
at least you're here now.
Is that a hand over by Katie? I never saw that before.
Oh yeah.
She's holding her phone like this.
No, clapping. That's the clapping hand.
Clapping. All right.
Oh, clapping.
Yeah.
Oh.
I've seen those emojis before. You guys are getting original.
Tech savvy.
All right, there they are. There they are.
As I said in the chat, so your finish line was exactly like my finish line on my first fall 2 years ago.
Oh.
I finished 5 minutes over the time limit, so the arch was still up, but the finish mat was gone. He looked at my watch to give me my official finish. I'm glad they let me finish.
Yeah, yeah.
I ran with Team in Training when I did it, and I was coming down, street names are going to mean nothing to anybody here, Cal Bay Road, and I was in tears because I'm like, I'm about to finish my first full marathon. I didn't think I was ever going to do this. And I was turning down Caldwell Road. I got near Caldwell Road. One of the people that are on the roads out on his bike was a guy with a French accent. Told me if I didn't finish in 5 minutes, they were going to pull me off. So then I was tearing up for a completely different reason. And when you get at the bottom of Caldwell Road, you go onto Shore Road, the finish line is this way. You have to turn this way and do this stupid little loop to get that 42.2 in kilometers. And then you run back this way. And I am fighting different tears. So I'm like, they're not going to let me finish. They're going to pull me. Thankfully, they let me finish.
Aww.
And it was the most amazing, wonderful, awesome feeling. And I hope to redo that in 15 days.
Yeah, you can
which will be a completely different finish because it's a virtual marathon.
So my husband was doing his first 70.3 and he was still overweight. He was in the process of losing weight, and it was Providence 70.3, which didn't last that long. It's been no longer for several years now. And he said he knew that people cheering him on were actually more condescending than anything. And he got the pity claps at the finish line as he I think he was pretty much dead fucking last too. So in my first sprint, I was still in the process of losing weight, and I ended up I didn't realize I had never done a triathlon. This was pre-coaches and everything like that. I was decent at running 5Ks at this point, but I had never done a triathlon. It was only a 1/4 mile swim because the water was freezing cold. And then it was maybe a 12-mile bike. And then I had no idea that running a 5K off the bike was going to be that difficult. And I got my own pity claps I crossed the finish line and I was so happy. I was ecstatic with myself. I wasn't DFL, but I was damn close to it, and almost everybody was going home. Yeah. And then I got into it and I got much better. And then I found that I liked going long, but I no longer want to do Ironmans. After 2019, I just decided that I would continue with ultras after doing 100-mile. And I just decided that trails were my thing and going long was my thing. And I just wanted to trail pound, not pavement pound, but trail pound forever and ever and ever. And it doesn't mean I'll never do another triathlon again, because I'll credit it for me getting started, but it definitely, I found my calling. So.
Yeah, you can tell just in the tone of your voice that you absolutely love it.
And the community, all the communities are wonderful, but it's just like the community, I would say, in trail running is just so different, and they're my peeps, and I still have a lot of love for a lot of my triathlon friends, and I get it because I've done 3 full Ironmans, finished 2, but and done several 70.3s and several countless sprints and Olympics. And so I get the triathlon community.
Yeah.
Now, did Sue convince anyone to try a triathlon, that maybe someone who hasn't done one before? Has she, I don't know, Cheryl, maybe?
Oh,
Denise, maybe?
Denise,
Yeah.
yay.
As I said, I need to learn how to ride a bike. So that's one major whole pack.
We could ship one to Canada, but it would take like 3 years to get there.
And it might cost twice as much.
Yeah, and there's this season that's coming up where I probably wouldn't want to be out on a bike in it.
Yeah.
That's okay. Matt will tell you to Zwift.
Yeah, Zwifting. It's a changer. It's a game changer.
No room in this place to set something up like that.
Sue, do you
Wesley would
Zwift?
probably love it, but
yeah,
What's your name on Zwift?
I'm embarrassed to tell you. My name on Zwift is lost 200 pounds.
I'll hit the follow button when I get on Zwift tomorrow or this weekend.
Get her on the Tuesday race.
Yeah, I put on a time trial Tuesday every Tuesday at 6.
I remember.
I'm gonna win a bike because I'm gonna beat his boss.
So, I bike on Wednesdays and Saturdays, so I'm always looking for bikes on those days. But I love Zwift. I was an early Zwifter.
We have a big following, I think, on Zwift too.
To Katie's comment, 4:30 is not a real hour. No, it's not.
4 o'clock is though. That's when I gotta get up to ride with them yahoos in the morning.
See? Now you get it. Yeah.
No. Race day, yes. No, you're crazy. I love you, Katie, but you're crazy.
I'm trying to get up in time tomorrow to run at 5 a.m. because we have a municipal election tomorrow, and I'm working the polls for 13 hours, and I'm trying to get up and run before it.
Yeah, your coach might say go to bed, actually.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, so I'm leaving because I got to get up at 4:30. So thank you so very much.
All right.
Bye, Katie.
I think we're losing
Bye.
control here anyway. So,
I'm taking
so
off
Sue,
too.
I just want to
I'm
thank
glad
you
I
for
listened
coming.
in.
I know it seems like everyone had such a great time listening to stories. It's really inspirational. Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure, and please, everybody, follow my social media, and I'll follow you back, and let's keep connected. Great group you guys have. What a lot of fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank
again.
you.
Guys, we
Thanks,
do
Sue.
have the order.
Love you, Sue.
Sorry, I'm jumping.
Enjoy.
We do have the ordinary marathon. We're doing a half version this year in November. So November 27th through 29th. I just want a little plug for that. And the way you register for that is to go to ordinarymarathon.com, register for our 2021 race, and it's free to do the half marathon, which you don't even have to do a half. You just do whatever you want, but we're just going to call it the half because it's about half the size of the one that we usually do in the spring. But looking forward to that. And again, Sue, thanks so much for coming. And, we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks when we do this again. All right.
Peace.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.